Have you ever noticed this? You might spend like a ton of energy being super polite, really on for someone you barely know, maybe the barista at your coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get home, flop on the couch, and maybe just, I don't know, grunt at your partner. It seems totally backwards, doesn't it?
It really does.
We're kind of taught, pour your emotional energy into the people closest to you. Always be your best self for them.
Right. That's the conventional wisdom.
But what if there's this hidden economy of emotion going on, where the effort we put out lines up more with uncertainty rather than just pure affection?
That's exactly what we're digging into.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into this, really counterintuitive truth about our relationships. We're going to explore why we often just exhaust ourselves being kind to people who, honestly, don't matter that much to our deep lives.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we find this weird comfort in being, kind of carelessly authentic with the people who matter the most.
And just to be clear, this isn't about judging ourselves for doing that.
No, not at all.
It's really about understanding let's call it the invisible physics of our emotional labor. We're pulling in ideas from energy economics, social psychology, even systems thinking,
Wow.
to see how knowing about this hidden stuff can actually transform our relationships. Not just the close ones, but like all our daily interactions. It's about seeing the unconscious rules that are actually running the show.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that common experience then, that barista interaction you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
You smile, you make the pleasant small talk, maybe ask how their day's going.
Mm-hmm.
You're being kind, considerate, totally socially appropriate. It feels almost like a performance.
Yeah, it often is.
Yeah. Compare that to coming home. Your partner, maybe your roommate, your family.
Mm-hmm.
How much energy are you putting into being nice right then?
Probably a lot less.
Chances are, yes, significantly less. You might be tired or distracted, maybe a bit grumpy, and somehow
Yeah,
that feels normal.
it does feel normal.
So the paradox is right there. We perform kindness for strangers, people who don't really have a claim on our emotional energy. But we give this much more raw, unfiltered version of ourselves to the people who, theoretically, deserve our absolute best.
It's fascinating, right? Because like you said, it feels backwards, but it's not a moral failing. Not really. It's actually a pretty intelligent system doing its thing.
An intelligent system, how so?
Well, think about that kindness towards strangers. It's actually a complex social act serving multiple really specific functions. First off, there's risk management.
Okay.
You just don't know how that stranger, that barista, might react if you're rude or abrupt. So being kind is basically a protective strategy. It avoids potential conflict or just awkwardness.
Ah, okay. Like social self-defense.
Exactly. Then there's social lubrication. It just helps everything run smoothly, Keeps the basic fabric of society functional, predictable, like oil in the gears.
Right.
It also helps with identity maintenance. It reinforces our own idea of ourselves as, good, polite people.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a nice person.
We all do. And, importantly, there's reputation management. Even if we're not consciously thinking about it, we often act knowing others might be watching. It signals our character.
Huh. So it's like we're constantly running this low-level social monitoring program in the background?
Pretty much.
And I guess that takes energy.
It absolutely does. Each of those things, risk management, lubrication, identity, reputation, requires conscious effort. You're regulating your emotions. You're making these constant social calculations.
Tiny adjustments.
Tiny micro adjustments, yeah, based on the feedback you think you're getting. And that's why interacting with strangers, even when it's pleasant, can be so draining. It's not the kindness itself that wipes you out. It's the performance and the underlying uncertainty of it all. That demands constant vigilance, constant calibration.
That makes so much sense. I've definitely left parties or meetings feeling totally wiped, even if I like the people. It's like that social battery idea, but maybe deeper.
Yeah, it connects to that.
So contrast that with our loved ones. They're part of our emotional ecosystem, maybe. They feel like a support network where we can just be.
Right.
They're not threats we need to manage or audiences we need to impress. Those complex social programs we use with strangers, they just don't fire up in the same way.
Exactly. Which allows for what we could call emotional relaxation.
Emotional relaxation. I like that.
It's not that we stop caring. Far from it. It's that we trust. We trust the relationship can handle our unfiltered humanity, our less than perfect moments.
Okay. So a question for you listening. When do you find social interactions most draining? And when do you feel the most free to just Be yourself, totally
Yeah.
unperformed. Keep those moments in mind.
Yeah, that's a good reflection point.
Because now we need to look at the flip side of this whole thing.
Right.
Why can what looks like indifference towards loved ones actually be a sign of deep trust? First, though, let's be really clear about what we mean by indifference here.
Good point. We're definitely not talking about cruelty or, deliberate neglect.
No. So what kind of subtle things are we talking about?
It's much more subtle. It's things like casual inattention
Mm.
or comfortable silence, those times when you're just not actively working to please or impress someone you love.
Checking your phone while they're talking. Or maybe not always asking detailed questions about their day.
Exactly. Or maybe being a bit grumpy sometimes and not feeling like you have to immediately apologize or explain your mood. You're just existing in their presence without that constant emotional labor.
Okay. So it's not about a lack of care.
No, it's
Yeah.
a lack of performance.
And I think that's where a lot of the usual relationship advice kind of gets it wrong, right?
Yeah,
They often see those behaviors as problems to be fixed.
absolutely. Conventional advice often misses this crucial aspect of really deep, secure relationships. Indifference, in the specific way we're talking about it,
Yeah.
it can be a kind of luxury.
A luxury.
Yeah, a luxury that only truly secure relationships can actually afford. Think about it from an energy perspective.
Yeah.
If you had to constantly perform peak kindness for your closest relationships, always being on, always asking the right questions, always trying to compensate, you'd hit emotional bankruptcy super fast.
Totally unsustainable.
Completely. The system just can't work like that. We need to have relationships that are safe spaces, places where you can exist without performing, where your unfiltered self is okay, even welcomed.
So it's about having a place where you can just breathe out and not feel like you have to earn your spot every single minute.
Precisely. Think about like two friends who've known each other forever.
Yeah.
They don't need constant chatter or big gestures to feel connected, right? Their bond is just there. It's like an emotional entanglement, maybe. It just persists without needing constant visible effort.
Emotional entanglement. Interesting metaphor.
So being able to be indifferent in this way with loved ones, it actually signals some really profound things. It signals emotional safety, like I know I can be imperfect with you and you won't abandon me.
That's huge.
It signals relational security. Our connection is solid. It doesn't depend on me performing perfectly all the time. It shows authentic presence. I trust you enough to let you see the real, unedited me. And maybe the most practical one, energy conservation. I can lower my social defenses around you because you're safe. You're not a threat.
Wow. That's a really powerful reframing. But I can imagine some people listening might still find indifference a tricky word,
Sure.
especially when we're told always be present, be attentive.
Right.
How do we make sure this isn't just an excuse for actual neglect? Because there's definitely a nuance here.
Oh, absolutely. You've hit on the critical piece. This only works, this positive interpretation of indifference, when there's a really strong underlying foundation of genuine care and commitment.
Right. The trust has to be there first.
Exactly. If a relationship is already insecure or shaky, then what looks like casual indifference does turn into harmful neglect. It feels like abandonment.
But in a secure relationship,
In a secure relationship, that same casualness, that same lack of performance, actually becomes a form of intimacy. It's a sign of deep comfort and trust. It even makes you rethink the whole idea of taking someone for granted.
how so?
Well, maybe a certain amount of taking for granted is actually healthy. A sign that the relationship is secure enough to handle those unperformed moments. It assumes the connection is robust.
Interesting. So maybe for you listening, where does that casual indifference feel safe in your relationships versus where might it feel neglectful? Knowing that line is really key.
It really is. Context matters immensely.
Okay, so let's try and map out this hidden economic system of emotional energy. Because once you start seeing it this way, yeah, you can't really unsee it. How should we think about our daily emotional budget?
Yeah, think of it like a finite resource you get each day, your emotional energy budget, and we unconsciously spend it on different types of interactions. Some are high cost, some are low cost.
Okay, examples. What's high cost?
High cost interactions are usually things like first dates, definitely, job interviews, meeting a whole bunch of new people at once, difficult conversations, especially with acquaintances or people you don't know well, even service interactions where you feel like you're being evaluated or judged somehow.
Right, where there's pressure. And low cost.
Low cost would be things like just hanging out with close friends you trust completely, family dinners, if those relationships feel secure and relaxed, being alone with a long-term partner, just coexisting,
No.
or interacting with people who've really seen you at your worst and are still there.
Got it. So the pattern seems crystal clear now. Emotional cost lines up with uncertainty, doesn't it? Not necessarily with how important the person is to us in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. That's the huge takeaway. It's driven by uncertainty and the need for social navigation, not just affection levels.
So why is this system considered intelligent then? It seems almost illogical on the surface.
It's intelligent because it optimizes for something crucial: sustainable social functioning. Think about the alternatives. Imagine if we tried to perform maximum kindness, maximum effort in all our relationships all the time. What would happen?
Total burnout.
Yeah.
Emotional exhaustion.
Right. Emotional exhaustion. Plus, a serious authenticity deficit. You'd constantly be faking it. Your bonds would likely become superficial because there's no room for realness. And you probably wouldn't be able to form truly deep connections because you're always managing your image. It's utterly unsustainable.
Okay, true. And the opposite, if we were indifferent everywhere.
Well, that leads to social isolation pretty quickly. Your reputation would tank, you'd miss out on opportunities, connections, you wouldn't have any social support when you needed it. So the unconscious system finds this middle way.
Perform when uncertainty is high, like with strangers.
Manage the risk.
And relax when trust is established, like with close loved ones.
Exactly. Conserve energy where it's safe to do so.
It really does sound like a biological strategy, like how animals conserve their physical energy.
It's very similar. Biologists talk about energy allocation strategies. In animals, they conserve energy. They deploy it strategically only when needed for survival or reproduction. We seem to do something similar with our emotional energy.
Wow.
It applies the same core principles: resource conservation, strategic deployment where risk or opportunity is high, creating safe zones for recovery, and overall risk management. It's a natural adaptive system that evolved to help us navigate complex social worlds.
And this is where it gets really interesting for us personally,
Yeah.
because just having this conscious awareness, understanding this system that gives you power.
Tremendous power.
You can start making intentional choices about where your emotional energy goes. Maybe you look at your life and realize, wow, I'm pouring so much energy into performing for strangers or colleagues, and I have nothing left for my partner.
Right. You're overinvesting in the high uncertainty zones and underinvesting where trust allows for relaxation.
Or maybe you realize you're performing in close relationships where you could be more authentic. Or perhaps being a bit too careless when some focused care is actually needed. The goal isn't to hack the system or override it completely.
No, definitely not.
It's more about learning to work with it consciously.
Exactly. Understanding the currents so you can navigate them better.
So if we had to boil this whole deep dive down, what's the core insight, the central truth we've extracted about this emotional economy?
I think the central truth is this: exhaustion in kindness and comfort in indifference are two sides of the same emotional economy, where effort aligns not with affection, but with uncertainty.
Okay, say that again. Effort aligns not with affection, but with uncertainty.
Exactly. And that reframes everything, doesn't it? That kindness you show to strangers. It's often less about pure virtue and more about social risk management.
Managing the unknown.
Right. We're being kind because we're uncertain about the interaction or the consequences, not necessarily because we feel deeper affection for the barista than our spouse. And the flip side, that casualness or seeming indifference towards loved ones, it's often not neglect at all.
It's relational confidence.
Precisely. It's a sign of profound relational confidence. We can be casual, unperformed, because we trust the relationship can handle it. We trust we're safe. It's not because we care less.
That really is transformative when you think about it. Instead of feeling guilty about not always being on in our closest relationships or forcing that performance, which ironically can sometimes feel artificial.
Yeah, it can create distance.
We can actually start to appreciate the incredible gift it is to be able to be completely unperformed with someone.
It's a huge gift.
And on the other side, instead of maybe depleting ourselves, trying to be perfectly kind to every single stranger we meet,
Which is impossible.
we can maybe bring more genuine ease, more authentic presence to those casual interactions without the exhausting performance.
Yes. The whole approach shifts. You start bringing more authentic presence where you used to perform maybe being genuinely, quietly present with a stranger instead of forcing bright chatter.
Less performance, more genuine engagement.
Right. And you start bringing conscious appreciation to your intimate relationships, recognizing the sheer value, the gift of that emotional safety they provide.
Seeing it for what it is.
Yeah. You get better at understanding when does performance actually help connection and when does it just create a barrier.
Yeah.
And you develop the wisdom to see that sometimes That comfortable indifference is a form of intimacy, not its opposite.
And just to be super clear again, this is not giving anyone permission to be rude to strangers or genuinely neglectful towards loved ones.
Absolutely not. That misses the point entirely.
It's about conscious energy allocation. It's about awareness.
Exactly. And the paradox we started with, it kind of resolves into this deeper wisdom, doesn't it? The most loving thing you can do isn't always the most effortful thing. Sometimes real love looks like being comfortable with each other's imperfections. And sometimes real kindness involves conserving your precious energy for what truly, genuinely matters most in the long run.
Okay, so this understanding is powerful. How do people listening actually apply this? How do we work with our own emotional economy more consciously day to day?
All right, let's get practical. I think there are about 5 key steps you can try. First one, conduct an energy audit.
An energy audit.
Okay, for just 1 week, consciously notice where your emotional energy is going. Pay attention. When do interactions leave you feeling drained? When do they leave you feeling restored or neutral? Just start mapping out your personal emotional economy. No judgment, just observe.
Okay, map it out. Step 1. What's next?
Step 2, performance detection. Start noticing when you're being kind primarily as a social strategy versus when it's flowing from genuine care. Both have their place, but awareness is key.
Ask yourself.
Ask yourself something like, am I being kind right now mainly to connect authentically, or more to protect myself or manage the situation? Knowing the why helps you choose more consciously.
Got it. Performance detection. Number 3.
Number 3, appreciation of casualness. This is important. Instead of taking that easy, casual intimacy with loved ones for granted or feeling guilty about it, consciously appreciate it. Recognize what a profound luxury it is to have relationships where you don't constantly have to perform. Many people don't have that.
Yeah, gratitude for that safe space. Makes sense.
4,
Fourth, practice strategic authenticity. This is about experimenting. Try bringing a little more genuine, non-performative presence to some of those stranger interactions to see how that feels. And maybe bring a bit more conscious attention and appreciation into your intimate relationships. Even in the quiet moments, it's not about giving equal energy everywhere.
Right.
It's about being more conscious with the energy you do allocate.
Conscious energy, not equal energy.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one, number 5, the indifference reframe. When you notice those moments of casual inattention or lack of performance with loved ones, either yours or theirs, pause, ask. Okay, is this the healthy casualness born of trust? Or is this tipping into harmful neglect? Remember, context is everything here. That distinction is vital.
Healthy casualness versus harmful neglect. That's the crucial question.
Yeah.
So the ultimate practice, it sounds like, is learning to use our emotional energy to build real, authentic connections.
Yes.
Rather than just spending it out of social obligation or old unconscious habits.
Exactly. And please remember, this whole framework isn't about becoming selfish or calculating or less caring. It's the opposite, really.
How so?
It's about understanding the hidden intelligence already operating within us. It's about working with the natural way we distribute emotional labor, a system that's actually designed to help us sustain ourselves both socially and emotionally for the long haul.
Well, I hope this deep dive into emotional economics maybe shifts how you, listening, see your own relationships. I'd genuinely love to hear if it does.
Me too.
And maybe consider this your thought experiment for the week. Try that energy audit we talked about. Just notice for a few days where your emotional labor is really going. And then ask yourself, is that effort serving authentic connection? Or is it more about just fulfilling social obligations?
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Understanding your emotional economy isn't ultimately about optimizing for efficiency, like it's some kind of business metric.
Right. It's not about maximizing ROI.
No, it's really about aligning your precious energy with your deepest values. It's about consciously creating space for authentic connection, real connection in all areas of your life.
Beautifully put. The goal isn't to love less. It's actually to love more consciously, more sustainably, and yeah, much more authentically.